Hey everybody, how you doing? FisherMN here, trying out a new gimbal that I'm going to try to use for what I'm going to call my weekend walks. Alright, hey everybody, it's Mike from FisherMN, and we're at the Coon Rapids Dam Regional Park here in Minnesota. And there it is behind me. There's our big dam here in Coon Rapids, and this is the Mississippi River. So this is where I grew up, and I thought, you know what? Fishing is kind of winding up here, I would say, as you can see by the snow on the ground, and the trees are changing. I'm not giving up yet, but you know what? I thought I still need to get out. So I'm going to do a new feature on my channel called a weekend walk, and I'm going to find a spot to walk around, and we'll talk some fishing as I walk. Now I need your help as you watch these. Whoever ends up watching these, it'd be great if you could send some questions, and then on my next walk I'll answer your questions along with having a topic that I'm going to be talking about. So today, as we walk, this is a perfect chance to talk about some shore fishing, because this is an area that I did a lot of shore fishing growing up, and even as I got a little bit older when I didn't have a kayak, the Mississippi River is definitely a great place to do some shore fishing. So I did catch my first muskie on the Mississippi River, and we'll see if we get over there later. But way over, if you can see the red sign in the distance. And then just move over to where the corner of the water is coming down on that side. That's actually the Brooklyn Park side of the river. You can walk all the way across here in Coon Rapids. That's where I caught my first muskie. That was an expensive day because I ended up buying probably about 100 muskie lures, and if you buy muskie lures, you know they're pretty expensive. I think I was actually in my 20s when that happened, and even though I was a little bit older, I was still pretty excited to catch a muskie when I wasn't trying for one. Below the dam there, you can catch walleye, you can catch crappies, you can catch northerns. So pretty fun on a river to see what you're gonna get. So the area I'm walking was actually not developed when I was younger, and it's kind of nice. You got the main river over here. You can walk down the hill and there's a bunch of rocks, and you can fish all along here. I've never caught any monsters, but definitely some small smallies and some action when you get on the rocks down there. Now when we turn around this way, down here is a lake called Seneca Lake, and it's a lake that they've built. It's a man-made lake, and it holds trout. So it's a stocked trout lake. Certain times of the year you can fish trout in Seneca Lake. So I wasn't just going to talk about the Mississippi. You know, I had that muskie that I caught, and that was about my only big catch that I've had here at the dam. But it was always a place to come for action. So as a baseball player from high school through the end of my college time and even into my 30s, but once I switched over, we're walking in a pavilion here, kind of cool looking. Once I switched over and became a fisherman as my main hobby, I was seeking out as many good shore spots as I could. I did a little bit of research, and I found out that the city lakes around Minneapolis, Lake Harriet, Lake Calhoun, Lake of the Isles, they were stocked with muskies. And so I spent a whole summer fishing from shore. And I also found out catching a muskie when you really want to is not the easiest thing to do. But I stuck with it, and it ended up being a great summer, getting to know some of the people that were fishing on the fishing pier, trying out some new techniques for muskies. We're back over here by the Mississippi, by the way. And I remember the first day I was on the fishing pier, and I was fishing for muskies, had all my big lures going, and there was a couple other people fishing for sunfish because there's a lot of sunfish milling around kind of by shore. And in fact, I could see them kind of scattered in front of me. Well, getting kind of bored and not catching anything, I remember kind of leaning on the wood of the fishing pier, and as I was reeling in my big old topwater lure, all of a sudden all the sunfish went whew, and it kind of got my attention, like, where are the sunfish going? And I looked behind my lure and there's a big old muskie following it. So boy, that got me hooked for some shoreline fishing around the Minneapolis metro area. And that summer I worked very hard and I caught some really big bass on my muskie lures because I was throwing the muskie lures 100% of the time. But I also caught at the end of that summer my biggest muskie ever at that time. So it was about a 42-incher, and I'll show a picture of it. It was before the days of video cameras, so it was quite an accomplishment. And I remember I had a disposable camera, and that's how I took the picture. And using that disposable camera, I blanked out the rest of the pictures so that I could go to a 1-hour photos center to get it developed that day. That's how excited I was about that muskie. So kind of developing that, I always call it a Rolodex, if anybody knows what a Rolodex, or just that internal list of places to fish. And my shoreline list of places definitely included those city lakes because I knew I could catch a big bass or I could catch a big muskie there. Now, 2021 FisherMN wishes he would have brought his frog along, but back then I wasn't fishing a frog because those lakes, I really feel like there's been a lot of attention given to them, and those lakes are a bit more fish than they used to be. So I think I could have done some damage with a frog if I would have been more of a frog fisherman back then. But I did catch my one big muskie, and it took all summer to do it, and I was pretty happy about it, so that was pretty cool. Something that's happened 3 times while I've been muskie fishing is I'll catch a big bass and then a muskie in the same day. And it's just interesting that, you know, the first couple of times it happened, I thought, oh, you know, maybe a coincidence. But when it happened the 3rd time, I'm thinking there must be something to it. So those big fish are hunting in the same areas. So when I caught my big muskie that I was talking about, here's the big bass I caught before it too. So I had not such great measuring equipment back then. I think my scale was a spring scale, one that just had a spring that pushed it down to a weight. And I think I weighed it at like 6 pounds. So maybe unofficially it's my biggest bass ever, but probably in that 5-pound range. It was a nice one. The second time it happened, I don't have a picture of the muskie because I was messing around getting the net and I didn't get the fish in. So that was kind of disappointing because you wait all summer, or you wait a long time between fish, and I had it right in front of me. It was a tiger muskie, probably high 30-inch range, and he got off. So I was all disappointed, but then 2 casts later, I caught this bass. So there you go. That's the second time it happened. The 3rd time the bass and the muskie situation happened was on a lake, Lake Rebecca, and it's somewhat considered a metro lake, but it's a little further off from the Minneapolis metro area. But same thing, I was casting my big lures and I caught a probably close to a 20-inch largemouth bass. So, and then a couple of casts later, ended up catching a really nice muskie. So the interesting thing about the muskie was that it was kind of at the beginning of having a way to film fish. I can't remember if it was my digital camera or if I had maybe a video, like a handheld video camera with me. but I got a little bit of footage of the release. So I'll put that in here with the old FisherMN archive thing on it. Releasing my Lake Rebecca muskie, about 40 inches, hit a topwater. There she is, there she goes. But I tell you, those days really made me appreciate all the fishing I was able to do, because it was really rewarding catching some quality fish right from shore. You know, sometimes we wait and we think we have to have all the perfect equipment or the right boat or something like that, but you know what? The fish don't care where you're fishing from. They just want to bite whatever you throw out there. So keep that in mind. You know, you can still get some good fish from shore. So looking to expand my horizons, I kind of pushed out from the city, and Mille Lacs is definitely a big lake. If you're not from Minnesota and don't know Mille Lacs, look it up on a map. It's monstrous. And I had just fished small portions of it, and I had a buddy come from Indiana and got my dad's boat for a trip out on Mille Lacs. And so we were trolling for muskies. I was still kind of in that muskie mentality, and we caught a big northern each, and I lost a monster muskie. So we were pretty close to an area that was accessible from shore. So I went back and I brought my muskie lures, and I was casting from shore. Nothing was biting, and all of a sudden on this big old muskie lure I had a hit, but it was kind of a small hit. And then something else hit it and actually stuck to it. I don't think I have a picture of it, but it was a smallmouth bass. Probably about a 14 to 16 incher hitting a muskie lure, but that got me thinking, I wonder if I could target smallmouth bass in that spot. Well, 2 years later, I had a pretty impressive resume of smallmouth bass that I caught from that shore spot. And it was a late summer, early fall shore bite. So I'm wondering, what are some of your shore successes? Have you found some spots to catch monster fish by shore? Do you have some spots you can go to that you know you're gonna get them all the time? It's good to know that there's some out there and that you don't have to be in a $50,000 bass boat to catch some nice fish. So along with the smallmouth spot on the Mille Lacs, I had a largemouth spot also. If you know where Father Hennepin State Park is, they have a fishing pier, and I've caught many nice bass in that area. Now, I didn't always stay on the fishing pier. Sometimes I'd walk up the road, cast my lure over the cattails that were kind of coming out from the road, and just hoping if I hooked a fish I could lug it over the top of the cattails. And I caught a few pretty nice ones there. So just kind of being creative. There were certain times of the year when you could see 50-inch muskies swimming around that fishing pier, because there's a little backwater there where the muskies would go and they would spawn. So I'd love your feedback. What do you think of a weekend walk every once in a while with FisherMN? Please send me questions. Put questions in the comment and I'll do my best to answer them. My channel's not at the level where I could do a live chat and a walk, but we'll get there someday. So for right now, if you have questions about anything, it doesn't have to be about shore fishing, put them in the comments. When I do these weekend walks with FisherMN, I'm just looking to talk about a certain topic for a little bit, but I also want your feedback in the comments. It was super great to be with you today. I'm not giving up. I think I might have a trip or two left in the old kayak. If you're getting out still, be careful. It's getting cooler out there. And before you know it, in Minnesota anyhow, there'll be some hard water to fish, and I'm planning on doing a little bit more ice fishing this year. Thanks for coming along, everybody. I'll see you next time.